Hey everyone, Dan here. We are during Power Hour on Tuesday, June 15th. We're going to do a quick update on SoFi. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And feel free to comment below with your own ideas, thoughts, questions, tickers you'd like me to cover, or whatever else. All right, so SoFi continues to sell off, continues to get badgered by short sellers. To an extent, there's not a ton to update on here, but I'll run through it. And there is actually something new that's come into play, and I'll point that out, but it's just sort of like a quick thing. But essentially from a charting perspective, yesterday as we were here, we were talking about looking for it to hold this 2121 level. Basically what happened is it fell through and quickly turned 2121 into resistance. So not what we want to be seeing on the bullish side of things. Yesterday, as I talked about, I had closed a couple of my call positions with the intention of rolling them out when SoFi seemed as though it was going to kind of get its footing underneath and show some price strength and some volume. That's still the big thing. If you didn't listen through the video last night to get to the portion where I talked about how important volume is at this point, I think that is a predominant factor at the moment. Just the lack of volume is really keeping SoFi in a pretty rough spot. Low volume short sellers can kind of do what they want, and that's pretty much what's happening at the moment. So our next level of support, if we zoom out a little bit here, is going to be that $20 level. I would look at that as potentially a really strong bounce zone. I mean, you go way back here, back into February and March, you had previous resistance there. You had previous resistance even in January, and some support that came into play toward the beginning of the year as well. So if it does, fall all the way down there, that would be another big leg down, but I would really look for it to bounce there. So if we do see $20 in the coming days, that I'm really going to look at that strongly to take a new call position, in essence, sort of like rolling out my other position, which was always the intent, but I'm not just going to do it kind of blindly. I'm going to wait for kind of a reason to buy back in. So that's what I'm looking for on that front. On the volume front, if we pull this over, we're at 2.73 million today. The average volume of 4 million for the last 3 months. So, I mean, it's been really up and down with the volume that's been coming in for SoFi. But, this low volume, like I said, it just makes it too easy for the short sellers to come in and take advantage of the no buying pressure because low volume, and just push the price down. If we look at the volume analysis here, I mean, about 100K more sell volume than buy volume so far today, and you see most of these outsized on the red here. You do have a bit of a buy volume here at 2104, but I mean, it's surrounded by a bunch of sell volume, so not too much to glean from that. If we take sort of like the 5-day view of things on the indicator perspective, getting pretty low on the RSI, 39.57, so we're definitely getting into oversold territory soon. And on the MACD, coming from below the baseline, it's stretched back up to the baseline now, but not a ton of bullish momentum that's able to sustain at all. So just kind of pointing out the obvious with those indicators. If we take a 1-month view, which encompasses like this big push up from 14 that we had, and kind of take a look at the RSI there, we're nearly oversold. So this will be a good kind of indication of if SoFi will follow the pattern that we saw here, which was reaching oversold territory and then running up to overboughts. And then essentially all that's happened with this big sell-off is it's been coming down to just now, literally early today, dipping into the oversold territory. And we'll see, it'll be interesting to see if it makes another run up, because if you do look in its history, it does have a history of this going from oversold to overbought, coming back down, near oversold here, and then making a run to overboughts, pushing back. And this is where it was picking up price strength. Whenever you see those times when it's coming into overbought and then it pushes down just to about the midline and then makes another good run up, a lot of times that's when folks will take their position, is on the second show of strength on the RSI, where it went overbought, it dipped only to about the midline, and then it made its second run up. Had you done that here, you would have bought in at about, what is that? Say $18 about. And then if you had held it through until it broke the midline and you would have sold it like here, you would have sold it at about, say, $20, maybe 19, high 19s. So, another thing to look for, as we kind of try to build some price strength off of this potentially, well, I guess we already were in oversold territory earlier today. So interesting to see what's going to happen there. But those are the couple of things that I look for. 1 hour RSI, can it make a longer sustained run into overbought? Maybe push it up toward that $23, $24 range in that case, and or looking for support at that $20 level. If we did want to look for additional support with the MAs, we wouldn't have it right now because they're all in a bearish formation, more or less. And so they're acting as resistance zones at the moment, but possibly if we can get that 20 to swoop underneath the price action and provide some support, that'll give it some lift power in the coming days. Now, a couple of things that have changed. Let's go over here and take a look at the recent data from today. So this is through 3 o'clock. And we see just kind of a pretty flat day. But as we know, this is just from Interactive Brokers, and as we know, when the merger happened, when the ticker symbol changed, there was about 1.3 million shares available to borrow all of a sudden, which was expected, and it's been relatively low supply since then. So this is just to say, I think that there's a ton of shorts that are in this. I think that will be above 20% short interest when that data comes out next, and I also think that they're just kind of like shuffling through their position over a course of a few days. So they're holding it for a few days, taking the profit, waiting for the stock to kind of run up a little bit or make some sideways movement, and then jumping back in and reshorting. And so that's where we see some slight changes, but overall, like, it's not as though it's approaching several hundreds of thousands of shares available or millions of shares available. The fee is coming down a little bit. It still is in pretty solid territory to put pressure on the shorts, but the price action isn't doing anything to put pressure on the shorts. So in that case, like, the fee doesn't really matter, unfortunately. If we look at the ratio from yesterday, so it was the lowest of the last several days, but that's because I think there was a bunch that just rushed in here when there was that big run up to about 25. You see that was on the 8th, and we see here on the 8th, we were in the mid 20s, and then the days following that, when the price got pushed down, we saw more and more shorts coming to pile in. So I think, it being in the low 20s is still very, very high short volume ratio, but I think that it being in the 20s is more of a product of there not being a ton of availability, rather than the shorts are actually sort of peeling off of SoFi and are going to kind of, leave it be for a while. I don't think that's the case. The good news is, and the new thing is, the second half of fails to deliver data has been published by the SEC, and so you could go to their site and find that. But I haven't had a time to parse through it yet, basically because, where did I stick this thing? Is it over here? This is, you can't really see it, but this is what it looks like. If we kind of get a view of it here, just hold tight for me. Okay, so if you want to take a look here, okay, this is what it looks like. And so it's not easy to parse through. It comes as a zip file, and then there's this text file inside, and so this is what then needs to be parsed through to find out how many fails to deliver are coming into the market with SoFi. So that helps clarify things around like how much sort of like artificial supply might there be, can be driven by intentional or unintentional naked short selling. I don't know that that's happening here. I think that's much more likely for some of the other tickers that we've been looking at. Clove is one that comes to mind. But, I'm going to keep an eye on this and parse through this as the days pass. And as, if there's anything interesting in here, I'll definitely let you know. All right, well, that will do it for this one. I hope your trading week is off to a decent start. And that you're making smart decisions with SoFi. I know a lot of you have a longer term position, so you're probably in sort of like the safest boat at this point. But if you're caught in this kind of downward spiral, I'll keep an eye on, so I'll do my best to keep you all updated and kind of share what my thoughts are. But do your own research, figure out what you think will work best for yourself, and make the best decision you can with the info that you have. That's all that we can kind of ask. All right. Well, thanks for watching. I certainly appreciate it, and I will see you in the next video.